I stood frozen on my front lawn, disbelief rooting me to the spot as thick bleach dripped down the sleeves of my charcoal suit. My once immaculate jacket was now streaked with pale stains, the fabric bubbling and fading before my eyes. The smell of chemicals filled the air. That suit had cost me months of saving, a symbol of everything I'd built from the ground up, and now it was ruined. Across the lawn, Karen Westfield, the self-appointed queen of Lakeside Estates and our HOA president, was storming off like she'd just won a war. Empty bleach bottles swung from her hands like trophies. Her face was twisted with fury, her voice cutting through the still afternoon air. "This isn't Wall Street. You're not better than us," she screamed, her words echoing down the otherwise quiet suburban street. Curtains fluttered in the windows around us, neighbors watching from behind blinds, too scared to intervene, but clearly fascinated by the drama unfolding in broad daylight. My heart was hammering. I couldn't process what had just happened. I'd spent years clawing my way up from nothing, building my business client by client, project by project, and now was being attacked on my own property for what? For dressing like a professional? I'd moved to Lakeside Estates 3 months earlier. Finally, after years of 80-hour work weeks, I could afford a place in a clean, quiet neighborhood. The house wasn't just a home, it was proof that all the sacrifices had been worth it. Everything seemed perfect at first. The trimmed lawns, the polite smiles, the tree-lined streets. But perfection hides things, and beneath the surface of Lakeside Estates was Karen Westfield and her iron-fisted rule over the HOA. From the moment I arrived, she had me in her sights. I'd catch her watching from across the street each morning, as I left for work, coffee mug in hand, eyes tracking every move I made. I wore suits every day, tailored, pressed, and professional. It was my armor in business. One morning, about 2 weeks in, she approached me while I was checking my mail. "You know," she said, smiling just enough to bare her teeth, "most people around here dress casually. Those fancy suits, they make it look like you think you're better than everyone else." I laughed politely, thinking it was a harmless comment. "It's just for work," I explained. "I meet with CEOs and investors every day. Comes with the territory." Her smile didn't fade, it just changed. The friendliness drained away, replaced by something colder. It was as if my explanation had confirmed whatever story she'd already written about me in her head. From there, things only escalated. A few days later, I opened my mailbox to find a printed notice accusing me of violating a neighborhood dress code policy. When I checked the HOA bylaws, I saw no such rule existed. Then came the anonymous complaint letters about my elitist appearance and disruptive energy. They didn't need to be signed, I knew exactly who was behind them. Soon, Karen started showing up unannounced for surprise property inspections. Oddly enough, they always coincided with the exact moments I was leaving for work. She nitpicked everything, claiming my grass was too tall by half an inch, that my mailbox wasn't regulation size, or that my garbage cans had been visible 15 minutes past collection time. Each bogus violation came with a fine, and each time showed up to the HOA meetings, disputed them, and won. I thought following the rules would show her I wasn't the enemy. Instead, every victory just fueled her resentment. I tried to stay calm through it all. My parents raised me to take the high road, to meet hostility with patience. But patience doesn't work with people like Karen. Some neighbors quietly warned me that she'd been like this for years, drunk on power, obsessed with control, but most of them kept their distance. She influenced the town through her husband, a well-connected businessman, and she wasn't shy about using it. Then came last Tuesday. I was backing out of my driveway when Karen stepped into my path like she owned the street. Her face was red, her voice sharp. "I'm sick of you parading around here like you own the place," she snapped. "Nobody needs to wear 3-piece suits in a neighborhood. Stop showing off." I took a slow breath, forcing my voice to stay level. "Karen," I said evenly, "how I dress for work isn't your concern." But I could already see it in her eyes, the line had been crossed. "The HOA regulations cover property maintenance, not personal clothing," I reminded her calmly. But Karen didn't respond, she just glared at me, lips pressed tight, before storming off in a huff. The way her eyes burned as she walked away should have told me something worse was coming, Today was supposed to be one of the biggest days of my career. I had a high-stakes meeting with potential investors, people who could take my business national if things went right. I'd spent weeks preparing, fine-tuning every slide of my presentation, every word of my pitch. I'd even splurged on a new navy blue suit, tailored to perfection. When I stepped outside that morning, briefcase in hand, confidence pulsing through me, I didn't immediately notice her, but there she was, Karen Westfield, lurking near my car like a shadow waiting to pounce. "You just don't listen, do you?" she hissed. I froze, turning toward her. She was shaking, her face red with fury, and in her hand was a plastic spray bottle. "Karen, what are you?" Before I could finish, she stepped forward and sprayed me. A cold, chemical mist hit my chest and arms. The sharp sting of bleach filled my nose, choking the air around me. I stumbled back instinctively, shouting, "What are you doing?" But she didn't stop. "Stop dressing like a CEO," she screamed, her voice cracking with rage. "This is a middle-class neighborhood, not your stupid Wall Street runway." The bottle sputtered empty, drops of bleach still dripping from the nozzle. She glared at me for one more vicious heartbeat and then stormed off, leaving me standing there, drenched and stunned. I looked down at my suit, my brand new $1,000 investment now ruined. White splotches spread across the fabric like acid burns. But the suit wasn't the only thing destroyed. I had no time to change before my investor meeting. Everything I'd worked for could unravel because of one person's jealousy and spite. That's when I heard a voice. I got all of that on my security camera. It was Mr. Chen, my quiet, good-natured neighbor from 2 doors down. He was standing at the edge of his driveway, shaking his head in disbelief, his doorbell camera angled perfectly toward the scene that had just unfolded. "She's gone too far this time," he said firmly. Something inside me snapped. For months, I'd taken the high road. I'd endured the threats, the harassment, the ridiculous fines, but this was an assault. I was done being patient. I took photos of my ruined clothes and immediately called the police. While I waited, a few neighbors emerged cautiously, offering support, and something more. 3 of them offered to give formal statements. Apparently, I wasn't Karen's first target. Anyone who didn't fit her narrow, self-righteous vision of what lakeside estates should look like had suffered similar harassment, though no one had ever been attacked outright. Mr. Chen sent me the footage. The video was clear, high definition, undeniable, showing every second of Karen's unprovoked attack. I called my investors, explained briefly what had happened, and sent them a photo of my bleach-stained suit. To my relief, they were understanding, even sympathetic. We rescheduled for the following week. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived. They took one look at the footage and exchanged a glance. One of them muttered, "That's assault, plain and simple." They went straight to Karen's house. From my driveway, I could see her through the window, pacing furiously, gesturing with wild hands, her voice muffled but unmistakably defensive. At one point, she pointed toward my house, shouting something that made both officers' expressions harden. When they came back, one of them sighed. "She claims it was a misunderstanding," he said. "Says she was trying to help you remove a stain." I let out a bitter laugh. "You saw the footage?" "We did," he said, nodding. "We believe you." That was all I needed to hear. I pressed charges: assault, property damage, and harassment. Minutes later, the officers returned to her door. This time, there was no talking. The neighborhood fell silent as Karen Westfield, queen of the HOA, was led out in handcuffs. Her face was pale, frozen in disbelief. She twisted her head toward me, eyes wild, as though I'd committed some personal betrayal. People began to gather quietly on their lawns. Some looked shocked. Many others looked relieved. It was as if the entire neighborhood had been holding its breath for years. And now, finally, they could exhale. 3 weeks later, I attended her court hearing. Karen sat at the defendant's table, her trademark confidence gone. She looked smaller somehow. No bleach bottles, no barking orders, just a woman who'd finally run out of excuses. The judge didn't buy a single one of her justifications. After reviewing the footage and hearing the testimonies, he found her guilty of assault, malicious destruction of property, and harassment. Her sentence: 6 months of probation, $1,500 restitution for my suit, 100 hours of community service, and a restraining order keeping her far away from me and my property. The final blow came from the HOA board itself. They voted unanimously to remove her as president. When the verdict was read, Karen's expression crumbled. "But I was protecting our neighborhood values," she cried as the bailiff took her arm. And no one responded. For someone who'd spent years lording power over everyone else, the concept of real consequences seemed impossible for her to grasp. As she was led away, the courtroom felt lighter, and for the first time since moving to Lakeside Estates, I felt like I truly belonged.